Good morning and welcome. I'm Rick Singleton. I'm the Provost of Queen's College, and I'm delighted to welcome those who are here in this room at Queen's College, those who are online with us this morning, and those who will be viewing this as a recording of a continuing education on session. Today's session is an orientation to the Primate's World Relief and Development Fund. In a few moments I'll have Archdeacon Charlene Taylor do the introduction of the session and the other presenters. But for now I just want to take a moment to say that we're delighted at Queen's College to have brought about a continuing education program, and it's been enhanced by the capacity to do it online as well as attend here on campus and to record it for people to view at their own convenience. We're particularly delighted today to know that many people across Canada will likely take opportunity to look at this video because it's about something that matters to all Canadians, the Primate's World Relief and Development Fund, and matters to people around the world as well. But Canadians are in the Anglican Church and beyond the Anglican Church provide relief and support to projects in other parts of the world, and that's what we're going to hear about today. And we're delighted that some of our students here at Queen's College are with us now and will also be viewing it online. So, enough from me. I'll pass it on to you, Archdeacon Taylor. Just there.
Thank you, Rick, very much for the opportunity to come and to share at Queen's College this morning and beyond. The Primate's World Relief and Development Fund throughout the Church of Canada has diocesan representatives who do the work on behalf of Primate's Fund in our local areas. And we're fortunate enough in the province of Newfoundland to have 3 dioceses, which means we have 3 diocesan representatives. I represent the Diocese of Eastern Newfoundland and Labrador. Sheila Boutcher represents Central Newfoundland, and Mona Edwards represents Western Newfoundland. At our last gathering as diocesan representatives in November in Toronto, we had many sessions about how we can get the word out even more about the work and ministry of Primate's Fund. And one of the areas that we focused upon, and there was much conversation about, was clergy, and particularly those who would be newly ordained, knowing about the ministry of Primate's Fund. Like any ministry, if you don't know what it's about, how would you ever support it? So Queen's College has given us the opportunity today to come together, the 3 representatives for this province, to talk a little bit about Primate's Fund, to educate those who will be new clergy or those who are doing ministry work within their parishes, to help us promote a ministry that is ours. It belongs to us as Anglicans, and it benefits, as Rick said, the whole world really in the work that we do. So it's my pleasure this morning, along with Sheila and Mona, to have this opportunity to share this ministry with all of you. Thanks.
So who goes first? Okay, so what we're going to do now is switch our screen to Sheila, who will be leading us through some of the introduction and all to the session today. So in a moment online we'll see Sheila's screen, and I might have to make adjustment here so that you see it on the... Okay, Sheila, you're getting the info to...
Yes.
Okay. So you can bring your slide presentation up when you're ready.
I have it up. Can you not see it?
No, not yet.
Okay. It's on my screen.
Okay, we just take a moment to make sure we got it done right here. Okay, so okay. Sheila, what are you seeing on yours?
I'm seeing my slide presentation.
Okay, so Sheila, I need to get you to go into under the did you get a message that allowed you to change the to become the presenter?
Okay. It says GoToMeeting Pro screen sharing is sharing your screen with the app.
Okay.
But okay, go back and go back to the other one. It says you are the presenter.
Yeah. Okay. And I just got to get that straightened up. Yeah, that's what it says, is that you're a presenter, all right, but it isn't. I'm just going to have to switch it back to me and see, can we switch it again? Sorry about that. Not sure what happened here.
Yes.
Charlie.
Back to GoToMeeting now.
Yeah.
Minimize your slideshow.
Minimize mine.
Where's your GoToMeeting? In there.
Yeah.
Slideshow coming up?
No, because I got to see, we got to bring up hers, huh?
I used to teach.
Oh. Change presenter to, okay. Go back to mine. I'm just shifting it back to my screen now, and then I'm going to switch it to yours again. For those who are viewing it as a recording, I'm going to ask you to stand by for a moment. But okay. Not sure why that's where I'm not even getting Sheila's name there now. Shit. Slow. Okay. Okay. So has it asked you now to become the presenter, Sheila?
It's saying, do I want to share my screen?
Yes, say yes.
And it says you are the presenter.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so now I'll go to my slide presentation.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now I just switched it back to me now, I think. Okay. Should ask you again, do you want to be the presenter? Okay.
It doesn't say, do you want to be the presenter? It just says, will I share?
Yeah, share screen. Yeah, say yes to that. Sorry about that. Okay, have you got it yet?
So I have the presentation on my screen.
Okay. For some reason or another, what are you seeing, Mona?
I'm seeing the picture of the two little girls, PWRDF.
Okay, well then that's it. Yes. Okay, continue on. Yeah, yeah. You do your presentation as you're doing. So you're seeing Sheila's presentation, are you, Mona?
Yes, that's what's
Yes.
Okay, you continue on then, and I'll get this straightened up here on our end of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So first of all, this morning I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Yep.
And I want to thank everybody for taking their time to participate in this presentation. As Reverend Charlene mentioned, Primate's World Relief and Development Fund belongs to the Anglican Church of Canada. And we have found through these presentations that people will often say, I had some knowledge that PWRDF existed, but it's the first time I really understood what it's all about. And so that's the reason why we wanted to share this with you this morning. Matthew 25:35 and 36 says, "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me." And that is the underlying call that the Anglican Church of Canada is answering through this program. I will go through a brief overview of how it all came about, and then we'll get into more depth with some examples. So the Province World Relief and Development Fund came into existence as a result of Anglicans' response to the 1958 Spring Hill mine disaster. The Spring Hill mine disaster was what they called a bump, or an underground earthquake, which caused a portion of the coal mine to collapse, and it trapped 174 men, and 75 of them died. Anglicans across Canada were moved to support the families of those people. And this was like a spontaneous outpouring of support. But at the time, it was very difficult to manage. It was cumbersome and time-consuming. That you can imagine back nearly 60 years ago, television was fairly new. Lots of places in Newfoundland would not have had any television. It would have been learning about this through the radio. So you hear about it on the radio, you say, we need to do something. So an ACW somewhere decides that they're going to have, an afternoon tea or sale of works to raise funds to send to help those families. So they have to plan it, they have to have it, they collect the money, and then the next time the clergy comes, they give it to him to get to where it needs to go, and then he has to get it to the Anglican Church of Canada, and then they have to get it to where it was intended. And I was told that it took almost a year for some of the funds to actually get to Spring Hill. So because of that sort of experience, I said there was a recognition that there needed to be an efficient process in place to respond quickly to emergencies. And in 1959, the Primate World Relief Fund was established. And I remember asking the question, why did it take so long? And I think the reason there was nothing in place before that had to do with the lack of media and the lack of awareness of things that was going on in other parts of the world. But things have certainly come a long way since then. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you have questions, by all means, stop me along the way. It usually is better to deal with them immediately than to wait until the end. In 1969, the word development was added to the name as the programs had evolved from just responding to disasters and humanitarian crisis to working towards sustainable development. And as I mentioned earlier, the Primate World Relief and Development Fund is the official development and relief agency of the Anglican Church of Canada. So basically, we're it. The vision of PWRDF is for a truly just, healthy, and peaceful world. The mission statement is To act as an instrument of faith, PWRDF connects with Anglicans in Canada to communities around the world in dynamic partnerships to advance development, to respond to emergencies, to assist refugees, and to act for positive change. PWRDF works with local partners. We always work with people who are on the ground. Several reasons for this. One is it facilitates the rapid response. Two, it is very cost effective. We don't need to have our own staff on the ground in every place where we have projects on the go. And it also ensures that the solutions are appropriate to the local situation. That local knowledge is critical to having the money put to best use and having the success that we have enjoyed. So in addition to emergency response, there are ongoing programs with 58 partners in 22 countries in a wide range of humanitarian and development programs. And since we cannot be all things to all people, the decision was taken to focus on addressing poverty, gender justice, and environmental exploitation. And the programs all fall under the refugee support programs, food security programs, health care and health education, and sustainable development. So these are the ongoing programs. The emergency response is still in place and as the need arises. That map of the world, the little balloons show you where we have ongoing projects. So you can see there are clusters in the underdeveloped world. The developed world, there's not much activity. So that's a big picture overview of what the Primate World Relief and Development Fund is all about. And now I'll go on to talk a little bit about some programs and partners. Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health Program and the All Mothers and Children's Count. Looks like a healthy mom and a healthy baby. Maternal and Child Health has been a part of Primate World Relief and Development Fund's core initiative since the beginning. In particular, the Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health Program was developed as a response to a United Nations report in 2013, which told us that 289,000 or 800 women per day died due to complications of pregnancy and childbirth. And just to put that in perspective, between 1990 and 2013, the maternal mortality rate was decreased by almost 50%. So, you know, we had made progress, but still 800 women per day was a staggering number. And infant mortality rate was up to 12%. So 12 babies out of every 100 were either stillborn or died shortly after birth. And most of that can be prevented. The risk of a woman dying due to maternal-related causes is 23% higher in a developing country than in a developed country. So the Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health Program began in 2012. It was an initiative. The proposal was written by Primate World Relief and Development Fund, and we do have financial support together with funds from Anglicans across Canada from the Government of Canada. And the initial target was high-risk villages in Burundi, Mozambique, and Tanzania in Africa. After 3 years, the program included health training and food security training. There was over 100,000 children vaccinated. In Bangladesh, there were 35 health centers built and 608 traditional birth attendees trained and deployed to 130 project villages. During a 6-month measurement period in 2015, the infant mortality rate was reduced from 12% to 0. So this program was extremely successful. I'm going to tell you a little bit in more detail about some of the things that were done. Just in Burundi, there were 2 health clinics built, and there were 25 farmer associations formed, which benefited 7,500 farmers, so teaching them about techniques and things that they could use and providing seeds and things that could grow better in their particular conditions. In Mozambique, there was 9 expectant mothers' houses built, and there was a radio program developed to provide health education. 60 communities received bicycle ambulances, and 6 healthcare centers received motorbike ambulances. In Tanzania, there were 402 people trained as community health workers. So, as you can see, one size does not fit all, and that is why partnering with local organizations is so important, is so that the intervention that's given is appropriate to the particular area. And here, this is one of the healthcare attendants, the birth attendants, and she has just helped deliver triplets using the training that she learned through our program. The All Mothers and Children's Count program is a successor program to the maternal, newborn, and child health. And it's basically an expansion of that based on the success that we had with the maternal, newborn, and child health program. So it's being expanded into 350 villages, and Rwanda has been added to the program. Current funding agreement with the Government of Canada is over $17 million over 5 years, and your gifts donated to this program will be matched at a 6-to-1 ratio by the Government of Canada. That's a picture of one of the bicycle ambulances, pretty basic, but very effective in the environment that it's used in. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is one of the partners that we work with. And, you know, we do work to identify partners with common goals. So the Canadian Food Grains Bank is something that we are a part of as well. The Canadian Food Grains Bank started initially in 1976 as a response by the Mennonite community to the world hunger crisis. And it was a pilot project where Canadian grain farmers shared initially 5% of their seeds that they harvested to less fortunate areas around the world. And in 1983, the project was reorganized, open to other church agencies, and reestablished as the Canadian Food Grains Bank. Today, they include 15 church agencies as members, including the Anglican Church of Canada, represent 30 denominations and over 17,000 congregations. And they are fighting global hunger in over 40 countries around the world. They have as their values the belief that humankind is created in the image of God, and that it is God's desire that no person should go hungry. The availability of food and access to that food is fundamental to life itself. Food is required to sustain life, to provide the strength for work, and to share in the fellowship of one's family and community. Their values include compassion, equality, generosity, human dignity, justice, peace, the right to food, and right relationships. And they work toward this goal of a world without hunger by providing food in times of crisis, helping people grow more food to better feed themselves and their families, and to provide nutritional support to malnourished people with a focus on pregnant and breastfeeding mothers and young children. They also advocate for public policies that enable families and communities to better feed themselves. They look for ways to engage and educate Canadians about global hunger. And in 2015-16, they helped over 1 million people in those 40 countries. Like PWRDF, Canadian Food Grains Bank implements their programs by working with member agencies and partners in the developing world. They are also supported by the Government of Canada through Global Affairs Canada. And their donations, or our donations through them, are leveraged on a 4-to-1 basis by the Government of Canada, up to $25 million per year. And that picture is just a seed grains bank in Bangladesh. And I should mention as well that the people who receive our help are also very willing to give back, and they have a practice of, when they harvest, they donate seeds back to the Food Grains Bank, or to the seed banks in their areas. Thank you. And that's my contact information and that of the contact person at National Office of the Anglican Church of Canada. And now I'll pass it on to Mona.
Okay, so Mona, you're ready to roll. You we'll just bring up the slide that is the introduction to the session, really. So before we move on, though, does anyone have any question or comment to Sheila? It was very interesting history and insight into how the organization came about, how it works with other agencies, and also the values and why it does what it does in a bigger picture. Any questions or comments or observations to for Sheila?
Well, my comment is one, I mean, it's amazing when you stop and think what a small donation in any parish, in any remote little place, to be multiplied 4 to 8. We so often think, such a huge problem, there's nothing we can do. With a little bit I've got goes nowhere. But the minute we see what happens when the Government of Canada and the global, whatever the last one was,
Yeah.
the little is not a little anymore. So when people say, I can only give you like $2 or $5, $5 could be 50.
In some ways, it reminds us of the miracle of the loaves and fish, doesn't it? Once you start to share it, it just continues to multiply. Miraculous indeed. Any other comments or observations?
I have a question because I was bored. 800 day.
Great, we'll get you to introduce
Right.
yourself. And I should have said earlier that when people are making a comment or asking a question, it's good to, for the sake of those who are listening, to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
Sorry, I
sorry,
should have
Maureen
done.
Anderson. I'm a student.
SPM?
Right. Yeah, so and with this new development fund and with their priorities with women's health and stuff, that they have seen a reduction in it. But I'm just wondering, what is the main reason for this kind of huge number of women who die in childbirth? Like 800 women a day is high to me. And some of these countries aren't really highly populated. Some are, but some of them aren't.
Some of it had to come, Charlene Taylor, some of it came through areas, in remote areas, where women couldn't get to birthing centers. And one of the things that advanced safe delivery of children was taking a woman by a bike ambulance to a birthing center versus having to walk 30 kilometers to the birthing center, where they would have, where their baby would have died. Birthing on the road, depending on what stage of labor or whatever they were in. But it was arrival to a safe birthing center, which was one of the reasons why there was a high mortality rate. And lack of nutrition was the other one. And
poverty.
Severe poverty. Yeah.
So the priority of poverty.
Absolutely. And so feeding mothers so that they're healthy brought healthy babies to full term. And then getting them to the birthing center where people had been trained was the other thing that brought babies into the world, and they weren't losing as many mothers.
Interesting and helpful to kind of see how, you know, we're so aware of all the high-tech developments that are in place, and we associate in North America and Western Europe with all the high-tech stuff being related to improving healthcare, but actually very low-tech is, you know, a bicycle ambulance is not really high-tech. Look at the impact that it has, interesting, and the impact that, as Carmen said earlier, small donations can make. When you consider the multiplying factors of other contributors and the purchasing power that it has in those countries. Anything else before we move on from Sheila to Mona's presentation?
There's also, besides bike ambulances, there are also boat ambulances as well, because some villages you get across a river to get to a place. So there's also boat ambulances as well.
Actually, just looking at, excuse me, the page here right now. I mean, the people. How would somebody get involved? Other than, I mean, I make my
In a project, no? Just by really contacting what's happening and seeing how you can help.
Through the Primate World Fund, yeah, through their website or phone numbers, that contact information. Great, thank you. Anyway, we're going to move on now to Mona's presentation. So Mona, I'll pass it on to you. Mona isn't using slides, so see the introductory slide only. You there, Mona?
I am. Am I up?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to reiterate Sheila's remark of this is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and share the good news of PWRDF and enlighten ourselves, because in preparing the presentations, I'm sure we've all learned a lot as well. Lost you. Okay. My first presentation is about food security. It's all about food. And I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm sorry, I'm fairly new to this. I've been doing this for 2.5 years and I've never done a PowerPoint. I do have a slide presentation for my second one, but please bear with me as I just kind of tell you all about it, what I've learned, and as I said, let's hope that we all be enlightened by this. Of course, have any of us ever experienced hunger pangs? I'm sure we have. But have we ever experienced hunger pain? I hope not. But unfortunately, many people in this world have. We live in a world where 1 in 9 people don't have enough to eat. Food aid is about giving starving people something to eat. Food banks are an example of food aid. So is a lot of immediate response in a disaster. Get food to people right now. It's a very important and much needed Band-Aid, but PWRDF is also about finding the root causes of hunger and working to overcome them. Food security, teaching a person to fish versus giving a person a fish. Over the last 3 years, our Primate and Archbishop Fred Hiltz, which is the P in PWRDF, he's been overseeing a campaign called Fred Says, with 4 Fredisms a year, and concluding this year with the 5 A's of food security. And we can see so much work being done to combat long-term hunger. I'd like to share some of the successes of this program with you now. It all started with, have you eaten today? A very strange greeting here in Newfoundland, but in some South African countries where HIV and AIDS is rampant, food is necessary for antiviral drugs to work properly. PWRDF has provided food baskets to over 600 patients, which significantly improved. Continue?
Yes, continue.
The next one, it's good to be full of beans. PWRDF partners with the Canadian Food Grains Bank, which was founded in 1983, and provides food and development assistance to people in need. Fred's goal was to help internally displaced people build their own sustainable food source by supplying seeds, land, and training. Host communities and local churches also help these people by ensuring that they receive 2 meals a day until their crops mature. Let's Jam. PWRDF, in partnership with the Cuban Council of Churches, helps families implement sustainable agricultural techniques, providing nutritional food with extra crops to sell for additional income. In the same way we make preserves of jams and pickles, etc., they can preserve a variety of crops for use during their rainy season. Some like it hot. Even though this program of providing hot lunches to children has ended, the development work continues in Haiti following the 2010 earthquake. Then they were hit with Hurricane Matthew in October of 2016. PWRDF continues to be a strong presence for both relief and development work in Haiti, thanks to the support of our many generous donors. Rice is nice. People in the Philippines have to deal with many hardships such as typhoons and other natural disasters, and also government corruption. Rice farmers are paid so little for their crops that they are unable to properly feed their families or send their children to school. PWRDF's local partner, FARDEC, which stands for Farmers Development Center, operates a rice mill which pays farmers more for their rice and charges less to mill it, giving them extra income to better provide for their families. The next Fredism is easy being green. Given the situation of our world, refugee camps are springing up everywhere. And even though they are a welcome reprieve for those fleeing danger in their homelands, many basic necessities are lacking, such as accessibility to healthy food. A Tamil refugee community in India has perfected the growth of spirulina, a nutrient-rich algae high in protein used to feed children and nursing mothers. Thanks to PWRDF, refugees are trained in the cultivation of spirulina tanks and in turn train others. Kids rock. We're all familiar with goat giving. In 2016 alone, Canada donated more than $54,000 to PWRDF for the purchase of goats, the gift that keeps on giving. For over 15 years, PWRDF has partnered with the Diocese of Masasi, Tanzania, to supply goats to vulnerable groups, usually in pairs so they can reproduce. A goat can give up to 6 liters of milk a day, enough for a family with plenty left over to sell or trade for other necessities. And Global Affairs Canada continues to match this project at a ratio of 6:1. I also wanted to mention Sheila's article in Anglican Life last month was all about the goats. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have another great opportunity to get the message out there through Anglican Life. We have a monthly column called News from PWRDF, which the 3 of us take turns in writing. So you can have a look there anytime you'd like a little more information. The last Fredism, veg out. Not only are vegetables good to eat, but they're also necessary for human development. PWRDF partners with the Diocese of Masasi in Tanzania and Global Affairs Canada by supporting a seed bank where seeds and training are provided to local farmers, who in turn are asked to donate 20% of their crops to the village's seed banks to help farmers in future years. The Fred Says campaign is almost at an end, but Primate Fred reminds us that food security continues to be a high priority all over the world. Let the 5 A's of food security be our guide as we strive for equality. Availability, when food is available to all people at all times. Accessibility, when people have economic and physical access to food. Acceptability, when food is culturally acceptable. Appropriate, when food is nutritious and free from harmful chemicals. And agency, when people have the ability to influence policies or processes that affect their lives. Thank you. I'll move on to my next one. How do I do the slides?
How does she bring up her slides?
Okay, so you have your slides ready on your computer, do you, Mona?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm going to switch it over here now. Hopefully it'll come up for all of us. You're being asked now if you want to show your screen or something to that effect.
Okay, yes, I did.
Okay.
Do you see a map?
It should come up in a moment for us. Sheila, what are you seeing? Are you seeing it yet?
Yes, I can see the map.
Okay, yeah. Okay, you go ahead then, Mona.
Okay. Well, by now, I'm sure you're quite familiar with the letters PWRDF. I thought it was an acronym, but then when I tried to pronounce it, I said no. I'd like to focus on the D, development. Teach a person to fish. Because we partner with church and social groups all over the world through ACT, which is Action by Churches Together, we have a much better insight as to specific needs at each location. ACT Alliance, as Sheila mentioned, is a coalition of 144 churches and faith-based organizations working together in over 100 countries. In the 2016 fiscal year, we implemented development projects in 15 countries and dispersed just under $4 million through our partners on the ground in these countries. Almost 1.5 million beneficiaries have received a range of support in the areas of preventive health, maternal, newborn, and child health, reproductive health, family planning, malaria prevention and treatment, food security, agricultural training and inputs, clean water, food parcels, microfinance loans, TB, and HIV/AIDS prevention and care. The federal government, through Global Affairs Canada, matches funding for many of these projects at a ratio ranging from 3:1 to 6:1. One of our partners is Village Healthworks in Burundi, East Africa. Village Healthworks was established on Christmas Day 2005, and true to its origins, it's the gift that keeps on giving and has become a model for health care for the rest of the country. Its holistic approach to community health includes nutrition, small-scale agriculture, women's empowerment and education. Community health days are celebrated with dancing and drumming, and families flock from far and wide so their children's development can be properly tracked. Village Healthworks is one of PWRDF's key partners in the All Mothers and Children Count project, an extension of the Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health project, which is funded mostly by Global Affairs Canada through the federal government. This huge project between PWRDF and Global Affairs Canada was initiated in July 2015 with a financial commitment of $17.7 million over a 5-year period, with the stipulation that PWRDF raise approximately $2.7 million toward the total contribution. I realize some of this is repetitive, but some of these things are very important and they do warrant repeating, I think. Every day about 830 women die from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth, 99% of which happens in developing countries. In 2015, 239 of 100,000 babies died, compared to 12 babies per 100,000 in developed countries. Village Healthworks has medical facilities that provide quality health care while addressing the root causes of poverty, illness, violence, and neglect. Thanks to Global Affairs Canada, Village Healthworks has recently been able to purchase 2 machines that monitor the health and progress of patients with HIV/AIDS. And here's the doctor demonstrating the machine. The Anglican Journal periodically has an insert titled Under the Sun, which tells about the work of PWRDF. And this is just a sample of one of those inserts. There's also a Gifts from Mission insert in the months leading up to Christmas, which includes wonderful gift ideas, such as the solar suitcase, a portable suitcase that provides healthcare workers with power for light, a phone charger, a laptop charger, and a fetal Doppler. One nurse shared a story of having to use light from her cell phone to birth a baby whose mom went into labor in the middle of the night. This is very dangerous, and lack of power and light increases risk to infant and mother. Global Affairs Canada matches donated funds for solar suitcases at a ratio of 6:1. Bicycle and motorcycle ambulances are also great gifts to consider, as they transport women in labor from remote villages to safe clinics. Again, Global Affairs Canada matches donations for ambulances at a rate of 6:1. Other examples of government match funds include goats at 3:1, cows at 6:1, and food and vitamin supplements at 6:1, just to name a few. Another partnership in existence for the past 18 years is between the Diocese of Niagara, in conjunction with PWRDF, and the Episcopal Church of Cuba. In May 2016, through a Justice Camp initiative with both partners in Matanzas, Cuba, I was able to witness firsthand how these partnerships work. The accomplishment because of mutual goals, respect, and communication were obvious. One project involved water filtration systems placed strategically in open church foyers throughout the city, making clean drinking water accessible to all. Here's the water one. Another project involved church-run farms where crops are given to needy people, while some are sold to raise funds for community projects. These farms employ local workers, which gives them a feeling of empowerment and independence. And as you can see, this is an example of how they preserve their crops. You see how they boil them on a propane stove, and then they actually use recycled pop bottles to seal them, to keep them. Nothing goes to waste there. It's amazing. We also partner with Habitat for Humanity Manitoba to address the water issue in Archdeacon, a remote fly-in community of about 3,000 people in northwestern Ontario. Since 2013, $550,000 has been donated to PWRDF from across the country to help retrofit homes with cisterns for potable water, tanks for wastewater, as well as fixtures and fittings for indoor plumbing. The continuing theme for this endeavor is hope, despite the fact that Archdeacon has the highest youth suicide rate on the planet, and that in the spring of 2016, 9 people died in a house fire there, partly because of lack of water to fight the blaze. Sadly, this is one of about 80 communities in Canada that face similar water challenges. But with each new installation comes greater hope and more determination. As you can see by the theme of this report, there is power in partnerships. Because we have partners on the ground in countries and communities where help is needed, we are able to connect directly with locals and learn from them what they require. We work together to support and empower individuals and groups to make win-win situations. Thank you so much to all our amazing partners throughout the world, and a special thanks to all who support the ongoing work of PWRDF in prayer, action, and donations. Pray, act, give.
Great. Thank you very much, Mona. Very interesting. We had a little problem getting the slides up here in this room, but they were clear online. So that's great. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask again if anyone has any particular questions or comments or anything to bring to Mona.
Which said that the main reason for starvation, particularly in Africa and other places as well, is armed conflict. To the point where some groups actually use destroying crops as a weapon of war. Obviously our initiatives here can't be divorced from political action of various kinds as well, and particularly to peacekeeping initiatives and peacemaking initiatives.
Yeah, interesting comment. And I'm not sure if either of the presenters, Stephen Taylor or Sheila or Mona, would have any comments on Maxine's observation and summary of.
I'm sorry, I can't hear any of the comments that are said in the room.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'll get you to say it a bit louder, Maxine. Yeah.
Can you hear me now if I speak up?
Yes.
Okay. I was reading recently in the Globe and Mail a column which the premise of the column was that the main reason for starvation, particularly in Africa and of course other parts of the world as well, is armed conflict, to the point where some of the groups actually destroy crops as a weapon of war. It would be a dreadfully wicked thing to do. But anyway, it's very complex, this business of food. And I think we have to sort of be able to deal with in some way, and it's certainly not easy, it's terribly complex, in making peace or keeping peace in some of these regions. And while I realize, I suppose, that you have limited abilities, maybe our governments might have more power to do something constructive in these areas. I don't know if you have any comment on that. I thought that was a bit of an eye-opener to me. Mm-hmm. I would think of drought and you know, these kinds of natural causes, you know, bad seeds, you know, floods, these kinds of things. But when you realize that it's actually armed conflict, and, you know, this was a very a person with a great deal of credibility who wrote this. Anyway, that's just a point that what the causes of some of this starvation is. Just wondered if anybody had any thoughts on it.
Thanks, Maxine. Certainly relevant to it. Comments from either of you?
I've heard the same thing as well, and I said it's difficult when you're so far removed to have any sort of influence. The one thought that came to my mind is that we do work very carefully to vet our partners and to try and make sure that the money, the gifts that are given here do end up where they're intended and are used how they're intended. And the government of Canada has very strict regulations and reporting requirements as well. So you can give with confidence, but they said addressing the problem of armed conflict in other places, it's bigger than us.
Sure.
Indeed. Trying to get that balance between providing relief to those who are suffering and not being exploited by the military powers and the political powers is very complex. But that's the advantage, of course, of having a lot of networking amongst relief agencies and the governments and democracies particularly. Carmen, you were going to say something?
Yeah, on the way coming over here this morning, I was listening to the radio, and there was a comment. They were primarily talking about the persecution, mistreatment, and imprisonment of that was the backdrop. But the comment that struck me was that in the past, Canada has been really proactive in working and trying to get refugees, and then there was a bit of a slump through the Conservative era, which has picked up again. And like all of that was really, really, you know, sort of pat on the back, feeling good about being Canadian. But there was one of the closing comments to the interview, which was that with the political climate being influenced by our neighbors to the south against refugees and safety above all, they were hearing that the Canadian government was thinking that there was a shift, there could be a shift in Canadians' attitudes towards openness towards refugees and giving and being involved in political actions that, you know, make conditions better for people. What hit me, as you said there, Mona, that pray, act, give that you ended up with, with our pray and our give is not too hard, and in our act lots of times I think we believe that the acting is more the giving than anything else. And I think it might be a time and place, and again, churches have to be so careful because so much of what their leverage, as you say, through the Global Affairs Canada and others, depends on the goodwill of the government, but it seems to me that we also need to act in terms of letting our government know, our members know, that we support work overseas, that we support them becoming involved, trying to make sure that what is given gets to where it's going, that we support their whole notion of making space for refugees and all. Just like that, this is really important work, but I think for this to continue, you need to make sure that you communicate with the people who make the decisions, or they will think, and that was the thing that hit me about that comment on the radio, that with attitudes in the South, in the United States changing, maybe ours are changing. So we need to let people know that they're not, or if they're changing in the opposite direction. So that was what hit me.
Great. Thank you, Colonel. We're going to move on now to Charlene's presentation, and we just switch places here so that Charlene can sit right in here where we are. And I'll ask others to turn off their microphones. I think we were getting a little bit of background noise from yours, Mona. It might have been that your speakers were turned a little too high, but nothing that interfered too much. So that's good. Charlene.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Sheila and Mona. It's been great. Not that any of this is brand new for me, but it's always good to hear it. And so thank you very much for that. So far you can see we've had an introduction to what Primate's Fund is, some of the work that's being done, the development piece, and work that's happening throughout the world. And I was really glad that Mona brought in the piece around Pakanjikam, because that's a Canadian development piece. And that is one of probably the newer pieces of Primate's Fund within the last few years, is that relief is actually part of what happens in Canada as well. And for those of us who are from Newfoundland, if you're from central Newfoundland, you will remember the flood in Boutcher. And Primate's World Relief Development Fund gave a grant to the community of Boutcher during that time, as well as work in Fort McMurray, and of course with the whole water project in Pakanjikam. So we work close to home where there is need, and particularly in Indigenous communities, and we also of course do it globally as well. So we make sure that we can best help those in the most desperate need, particularly those at home and around the world. So we're really glad for that. So I'm going to look at some
Just going to get there. I didn't realize I had the wrong slide up. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll move over.
No sweat. Not sure how that came about. No, we got it. There we are. There we are. Okay, go right ahead.
So I just click here.
Yep.
Wait, now we're just having a technical bit here. Oh, here we go. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about is some other parts of programming that is available to us to spread the word around Primate's World Relief and Development Fund. And one of those pieces is the Youth Council. Primate's Fund has a Youth Council who does work and is part of Primate's Fund with an emphasis and focus towards young people. And so the Youth Council is youth challenged by faith, values, and beliefs to create positive transformation in ourselves and the global community. We have the power of youth and grassroots development in building relationships both locally and globally. And we share stories of our partners to inspire youth to be leaders, educators, and advocates for living justice. The Youth Council is a group of folks between the ages of 16 and 29 years old from across the country, appointed and elected through the structures of the Anglican Church, as well as by our ecumenical partners in Canada. And one of the people who sits on the Youth Council for Primate's Fund is a member of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada. And we're very pleased to have that partnership as we are churches who are in communion with one another. The youth
Just to
council.
interrupt, are we supposed to be seeing your slide presentation?
One moment, I'll ask Rick.
Because
Wait, no, the technical support has just left the bill. Has just left the room.
Have to go get them.
You can't see my presentation?
no, and it doesn't matter for me, but I'm wondering about the people online. If they can't see it, then they're at a disadvantage.
Right, I gotcha. Okay. All right. I can't sing or dance to fill the space, but we're going to get the support, the technical support to make sure this happens.
I have a nice picture of you eating. Would you like me to put that up?
Me? Is that at a meeting?
Last November in Toronto.
Oh, no, you can keep that photo for yourself.
Fine.
So yes, the Youth Council, even though you can't see the screen yet, the Youth Council does phenomenal work. And when we say young people are elected through the structures of the church, we have representatives throughout the ecclesiastical provinces of Canada who represent geographical areas of the country on this Youth Council. They also have a young person who sits on the board of Primate's War Relief Development Fund as well. I've got somebody here for support now, so let's hope.
Very good people.
Let's hope this works. They can't see this. Do you know? Technology is wonderful when it works.
When it works, yeah.
My experience is
So often for sure.
my first one.
Can you see it now?
No,
Owner Sheila?
no.
Okay. Well, if
No.
you can't see it, that means other folks can't either. Do you want me to get out of this chair? Do you need to get here? Okay.
Charlene, who's the youth rep on the board? Is it Sheila? You said that there was somebody sits on the board from you.
Yeah, there's a young person from, I think she's from BC, out west, who sits on the Primate's board from the Youth Council.
Oh, wonderful.
They see the,
Can you see it now? Can you see, you should be able to see Youth Council resources.
No,
No, I'm seeing Queen's College Faculty of Theology.
me too.
okay.
Okay, just one moment, Rick is here now.
Sorry about that. I never had this happen before, but anyway, we'll try and figure out what it might be. Not sure what
I got her now.
it's on there now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, me too.
Okay, Youth Council resources.
Yes.
Don't ask me what I did.
We're back in business.
It's finicky today. Usually isn't. Okay.
That's okay. As long as we get to word it today,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. So I want to share with you, there are a number of resources that the Youth Council has put together that can be used for Youth Council and used within, not just Youth Council, but used within parishes and any groups who would like to take part in that. And one of these is Hunger is Not a Game. And this resource includes watching the movie The Hunger Games and to reflect on the messages that the movie contains about food. And we've heard about food security and the importance of that for well-being of mothers and babies and just human existence and those who need food to accommodate medicine and all those things and how important food is. This movie gives the opportunity to look at that, to focus on food. The resource is divided into 6 sessions, and in each session you watch a scene from the movie, have a discussion, participate in an activity, and learn about PWRDF and the work partners are doing around food. And so this can be done over a series of nights with a youth group or a confirmation class or whatever kind of a group or setup you may have in your parish or community to look at food and food security and issues around food. And one of the ways I'm going to be using this resource in the future is because you watch the movie and you stop and start, it's difficult to do it all in one evening. So I'm looking at either in the spring or early in the fall doing a youth group overnight with one of the main focuses being with this resource, Hunger is Not a Game. The other one is Living Justice, Life-Giving Water, and this complements work that's being done from Primate's Fund, as well as part of the National Youth Project, which is called Right to Water. And this is a youth initiative being done with Canadian and Lutheran youth across the country. And of course, that they're our partners, and with a Lutheran young person that sits on a youth council, they're able to join together so that two churches are doing pieces of work around the right to water. It addresses the issues of water in Indigenous communities in Canada, in their parishes and communities, at events, parish, diocesan gatherings, and educational sessions. It has 6 sessions and can be used as a whole or as a single session. The resource was designed for people who work with youth but can be used intergenerationally. And just from experience this past summer at the Canadian Lutheran Anglican Youth Gathering in Prince Edward Island, there was an activity used around the right to water, and it included young people having to carry water for long distances just to reiterate the importance of water and how difficult it is for folks to have water. Another area of Primate's Fund work is in refugee response. And bits and pieces have been talked about today already, and refugee response is also often emergency response. PWRDF has supported ACT Alliance, which is our biggest partner on the ground in many developing areas where we do work together. And particularly in refugee response, it's in providing food, shelter, hygiene, sanitation, psychosocial support, healthcare, and education to displaced Syrians within Syria and to refugees in Lebanon and Jordan. Now, Primate's Fund has been doing work with refugees for years, but I've highlighted particularly the recent work with Syrian refugees, since that's the one that's on our radar now and the one that most of us are most familiar with. PWRDF has been supporting relief efforts in Syria and the surrounding countries since 2012. And of course, 2011 was when all this civil unrest started in Syria. In 2015, PWRDF has sent $125,000 through the ACT Alliance and the Canadian Food Grains Bank for programs in Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. $20,000 through ACT for relief work in Greece, Hungary, and Serbia, as well as $31,000 through Refugee Egypt for work in Cairo. And so while we work together on this part of the world to sponsor refugees, Primate's Fund works on the ground where refugees are still living. And PWRDF is not directly involved in refugee sponsorship. We work with Refugee Response on the ground for those who are in refugee camps or particularly have been able to, they've had to flee where they are living, or if they've been internally displaced within their own country. So here is a picture of a school in a settlement of Syrian refugees in the district of northern Lebanon. And so refugee support on the ground where refugee camps are is still enabling children to go to school, and particularly girls to go to school. Not always do girls have the equal opportunity to be educated. And here's workers erecting new tents in the Zatari refugee camp in Jordan. And I have a personal story connected to the Zatari refugee camp. The family that the Church of the Good Shepherd sponsored, the dad had direct work in the Zatari refugee camp, and his family had connections to that while they were in Jordan. And so Primate's Fund continues to help refugees in areas where they've had to flee and to try to make life that much more bearable in an area which is not their home. We've also heard today in bits and pieces too around humanitarian response, and usually these are the things that are emergency, disasters that happen. So drought, hunger, earthquakes, floods, fire, any other natural disaster. And when Primate's Fund responds to this, often it goes out as a grant to anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000. It's immediately given to a partner on the ground where such activity is happening, so that immediate response can happen for immediate needs like food, water, sanitation, and health care during such disasters. And then after that, often Primate's Fund will then put on a blitz kind of thing for that immediate area at that time. Any funds that come in through humanitarian response, 100% of it goes directly to the immediate need, whether it's a drought, or earthquake, fire, whatever it is. Humanitarian response money, every cent goes to that. And not that all of our money don't go other places, but of course, like any organization, we have we also have a small portion of what we raise that needs to be used for administration. And administration at the Primate's Fund is very, very low. Over 90% of what you give to Primate's Fund is used for its programming. It has a very, very low administration cost. And the reason why it has a low administration cost is because we don't send plane loads of people to an earthquake area or to a place where there's drought or a fire area, because we just become a burden on the resources that are there if we filled a plane and brought people on the ground. We're better serving people by asking them what their needs are, and then by giving them the funds to do their work. And so humanitarian response is always ongoing whenever there's a disaster somewhere in the world. Humanitarian response often is shared with partners, particularly ACT Alliance and the Government of Canada. Primate's Fund has a wonderful relationship with Global Affairs Canada, mainly because of the way our Primate's Fund is organized, and because of the great record keeping we have and the way we utilize funds. And because of that, because we're considered a good charity, it's easy for the Government of Canada to partner with us because of the work that we do. Right now, emergency relief in Africa is one of the priorities because of drought and food, and particularly in Nigeria, South Sudan, Somalia, and Kenya. And in many parts of Africa, we are now seeing again, there's constantly seems to be an issue around food and food security, but we have times within our lifetime when we see it more desperate than others. And right now we're living through another time when starvation and drought is really affecting the lives of millions of people. And so work is continually being done in Nigeria, South Sudan, Kenya, and Somalia. And any country that receives funding for an emergency relief piece, that is directly for that need at that particular time. The ongoing work that may be happening in that country through other programs also continues to happen. So if there's programming happening particularly in, say, Nigeria with healthy moms, well, just because we're sending money because of a drought doesn't mean that the Healthy Moms program gets cut. That work continues to happen, as well as emergency relief happening all at the same time. So this is our ministry, and I think that's one of the takeaways, if anything today we take away, is that PWRDF is ours. It's our response to world relief and development. It started because of a disaster at home, which Sheila reminded us about this morning. And because of that, we have found a way to continue to help the needs of those at home and abroad. So how do we give, and how can we support this ministry which is ours? Well, financially, we can do that through church envelopes. And most of our churches in 3 of our dioceses here in Newfoundland have the blue envelopes in their envelope boxes. And that way, you can give on a monthly basis to Primate's Fund. You can do it also through automatic withdrawal from your bank account, and that works in 2 ways. You can, if you're a part of a parish that does direct deposit, you can specifically ask that when you're giving, you give to the parish, you can also include in your explanation of how you want your givings to be used, also designate a certain amount as well for Primate's Fund. And again, the parish would then take it and send it to Primate's Fund. Or you can set up yourself directly with Primate's Fund, and that's what I do. And my monthly donation comes out directly from my bank account and goes right to Primate's Fund. There are special functions. Fundraising and activities for Primate's Fund is only limited to your imagination. And whatever you can think of in any sort of a way to raise funds for Primate's Fund, I would say have at it, because there's all kinds of ways to do it. In my previous parish, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of that parish, and it coincided with the same year as the 50th anniversary for Primate's Fund. So one of the things our parish did at that time was to look at outreach in our local community as a celebration of our parish anniversary, and to look beyond ourselves. So what we did is we did a fundraiser with our young people for Primate's Fund for our 50th anniversary plus the 50th anniversary for Primate's Fund. And that happened to be our young people raising, I gave them a goal of $2,000. If they raised $2,000, they could dye my hair whatever color they wanted. And so they did, and they surpassed. And once the congregation knew that I was going to end up with multicolored hair, it ended up being almost $3,000. So I sported for a month pink, green, and blue hair, and I wore a tag around my neck for that whole month before I had it all washed out and turned back into my somewhat natural color. I wore a tag around my neck that said, "Ask me why my hair is this color." And I wore it for a whole month wherever I went. And folks would stop me and say, "Why is your hair that color?" And that gave me the opportunity to talk about Primate's Fund and what our children had done to raise the funds for it. The most fun part of that was going into a public place outside of Goose Bay, where it was at the time, in an airport, and people looking at my hair and looking at the collar around my neck and trying to figure out what kind of person is this. And I was able to show them my tag and then share the ministry of Primate's Fund. But parishes are doing all kinds of things to raise money for Primate's Fund. Since our Gifts for Mission, lots of confirmation classes are buying goats or bikes or whatever is needed as a thank offering for their confirmation experience. Parishes are having Lenten lunch and learns, and they talk about Primate's Fund. They have lunches during Lent, and any free will offerings are given to Primate's Fund. There are endless bake sales and cookies and everything that happens to support Primate's Fund. So if you think of any special function that you think you can raise money for, and if you share the ministry of Primate's Fund, I can guarantee you people will give. We also have Christmas cards, and Primate's Fund has been doing Christmas cards for quite some time, and they can be bought, of course, during the Advent season. And again, the Anglican Church of Canada's Gifts for Mission, which has a broad variety of ways you can give, particularly to Primate's Fund. And those gifts, a lot of those gifts, when you look at them, are also gifts that are matched by the federal government. So when you want to pick one where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. And that way you get to help more people because the federal government is also a partner with us. So PWRDF can help you spread the word through resource materials, and there's all kinds. Go to pwrdf.org, and there you can find stories and examples of many and all of the projects we're a part of. There are many YouTube videos of activities that are happening throughout the world. And lots of times all you need to do to spread the word is download one of those at a men's group or a ladies group, or in the middle of a service if you want. Last Mother's Day, I used that opportunity to talk about maternal child health care, and what the most appropriate time of the year to do it than Mother's Day. So be creative. If you're someone who is passionate about this ministry, then you need to find some people around you who are just as passionate. And when you're able to find passionate people, then you can change the world. And you're needed for Primate's Fund to be able to do this work. I think that's all I've got. Yeah. Are there any questions about anything that anybody has heard today?
Anyone, any comments or questions? Very impressive series of presentations. I must say that helps us to become more informed about what the whole fund is and how it operates and the good work it does. And also, of course, the efforts that are made locally to support it and what can be done without need for creating a whole new structure and what have you, that there's lots of ways of reaching into the relief fund to contribute. Comments or questions?
The best way you can share Primate's Fund is by telling the stories. We could have all kinds of fancy commercials on TV and blitz ads, but that costs thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is money that Primate's Fund is not willing to spend because we rather have the money on the ground doing the work that it's supposed to do. So we really depend on people who are tuned in today and taking part. And what you can do on a very local level to help this fund. We truly are grassroots, and we have a good story to tell, and it depends on us to really tell it.
One of the things I'd be curious about, Charlene, and either you or Sheila or Mona would be able to comment on, like we see ups and downs in our own economy in Newfoundland, and in parts of the province it fluctuates with seasonal industries and what have you, fishery particularly. Across the nation, other provinces, it's the same thing. Do those things have much impact on the Primate World Relief and Development Fund, or is the giving pretty consistent and then boosted for special functions or special appeals?
It's up and down, but most times it's pretty even. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty even, and we're very thankful for that. Depending on people's economy and depending on the diocese where some dioceses are housed, yeah, local economies will definitely have an impact. But fortunately, Primate's Fund has still always been able to do the work it's been able to do. And I think it's because it's an organization that's completely blessed. Even in the harshest times in this province, during the collapse of the fishery at the beginning, there were still thousands of dollars that came out of this province for Primate's Fund. The last number I had for our diocese was over $130,000 in 1 year that went to Primate's Fund. And that's a significant chunk of change when you think of everything else that the churches locally support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just going to mention too that.
Okay, just speak up, Maureen.
Oh, sorry.
So we got to.
Okay, I was going to mention that because of Primate's experience with partnerships, that maybe you should consider a media partnership, because the thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars that you would have to spend in television or advertising or whatever. But I worked in partnerships at CBC, and we developed a big partnership with the food banks here, with our turkey drive and things like that. And it was something that we managed with them in partnership, and it was so successful. So I think that I don't think people should be afraid of a media or raising money through that, because oftentimes you can get it free through partnerships. You know, if you partnership with CBC or CTV or even a newspaper or a string of newspapers or whatever, what I, you know, in terms of, because I was internally with CBC, I know that the corporation has a huge mindset for that, as well as people, just my understanding of people, love to show their humanity. And so I think that that's something that...
We have at the national level, we have a communications person on staff. And that would be a good point, actually, to bring up about, you know, what work is being done in partnerships around media. Yeah, that's a good comment. Thank you.
That feeling, Maureen, will be a resource for you too.
Sure. There you go.
That's
Absolutely.
great.
Definitely lovely.
Which shows in itself the benefit of telling the story. Every audience
That's
you
right.
speak to, there's someone that can connect it in ways that you would never have anticipated.
And the benefit of partnerships in every aspect of it,
You get far more work done, you know, together with someone else than you do on your own. There's no doubt. And
Absolutely.
because of these partnerships on the ground in many of these areas where we work, it's why we've been able to do so much, is because of the partnership.
Great, thank you, interesting. Any other comments or questions for either of the presenters, or any last minute comment from the presenters either?
It's Carmel. Lots of times when you hear presentations on response to disasters and situations that are ongoing just by the nature of who we are and where we live, you come away feeling kind of defeated and guilty. I have to say, just to the three presenters, that I feel uplifted having heard your presentations this morning. So the way you've presented your materials, I think, gives hope, and I think, again, with hope, we can do one hell of a lot.
That's right.
So it's just the way, I guess it's from the top down and from the bottom up in the organization, that hope rather than, oh, poor us and look at all the bad. And I just say it because, I mean, so many times I've seen these types of things, and I just come away feeling, oh, but congratulations. Good work, well done. Let's spread it.
Thanks, Carmel.
Great, thanks, Carmel, well said.
And
Anything? Oh,
no, I was just going to say in social media too. I mean, while you've been talking, I mean, this is what I'm just itching to get my teeth into. Like, this is the ministry that I really want to get into. And I have a small business myself at a music school. And while we were talking here, I was actually going on Facebook because I try to promote different causes locally, and I went on Facebook and sent off to all the people on my webpage, on my page, around the PWRDF. And in the past 10 minutes, I've got 2 invitations to preach on PWRDF, 2 different Sundays.
There you go.
And I've got 4 people who've responded back saying, how can I donate?
There
So, I mean, the little word that goes out there makes a huge difference.
And anyone who wants to take it on to speak in their own parish, or those who are clergy who are asked to preach, or you want to take a Sunday and preach, there is oodles and oodles of resources on the PWRDF website, pwrdf.org. And you'll get all the information that you would ever need to be able to put together a sermon or talk. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
And I mean, if you can do the
And it's free for use.
And if you can do multimedia, some of the pictures and things.
That's right. And anything on the Primate Fund website is free for any of us to use at any time to put together a presentation to use. Yeah.
You know, even to have something like that being projected 10 minutes before a service.
Yes.
Just
right.
for people who come early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just putting slides together, just for because there's an impact when you are able to see something.
Yes.
If you're able to see faces, if you're able to see the bike ambulance instead of just hearing about it, it definitely has a different impact.
So,
yeah.
Can you imagine what would happen if during your Sunday service, having done that, you then just left the slide of the bike ambulance projected the whole time? What might happen?
That's right.
Wow.
And one thing that we've done is take together the those like 2-minute clips from the Fred Says campaign and string those together and run them before service.
There you go. Any other examples that you guys have used, Mona or Sheila, in promoting Primate's Fund in your diocese? Just some ideas that we can share.
One thing that we did early on when I was the diocesan rep was we had a rice dinner, and I set it up the Sunday before that the following Sunday after church we'd have this rice dinner, and the serving portion, basically a cup of rice, would represent what somebody in a refugee camp, that would be their food for the day. And so I said we set it all up and distributed the other PWRDF envelopes, and then during the service, instead of the sermon, I did a presentation on PWRDF. And so we went to the hall for our rice dinner, and there was probably only, I think, like 44, 45 people came, but people used their envelopes. We raised $3,500.
Wow.
So they weren't too keen on limiting themselves to a cup of rice for the day, but they definitely it still was quite successful. But we've had lots of things too, like concerts and walks to create the awareness and raise funds as well. And like you said, the imagination is all that limits you. But I love your hair color idea.
Okay. Anything else then before we wrap up?
Well, actually last night our parish here in Pasadena had a hymn sing. One of the musicians had this book that told the origins of some of the really old hymns, and then he figured, now this will be a good way to promote PWRDF. So what we did was we put together a program with so many of these old hymns, and also the origins, so people would read where these hymns originated, the history behind them, and then the hymns would be sung by ecumenical music groups from the community. And we actually had a free will offering with our envelope and raised funds for the South Sudan famine relief. So that's just another example of anything you can do when you put your mind to it.
Absolutely.
Great. So, folks, I just want to draw your attention. I thought I would, but it seems to be not doing what it's supposed to do again, my slideshow here. But there we are. First of all, thank you to the three presenters. Very informative. Thank you to those who attend, and I hope those who will view it online will enjoy it. I'll be taking a look at it when we upload it and see if it's smooth and so on. If it isn't smooth enough, I'll contact Charlene and Mona and Sheila and say, let's do it again and record it. So nice and compact for those who will view online. But in the meantime, thank you all for your interest. Thank you for the great presentation, very informative. And I just want to draw attention to other sessions that we have coming along. We have on May 1st, just next Monday, we have the session on the 500th anniversary of Luther's Reformation, and that's here in the chapel and in this room. Serious presenters and so on. We start, I think it's at 12:30 and go till 4:30. So that'll be an interesting session. And then our convocation is on Thursday, May 4th, with the speaker at the convocation, Bishop Jane Alexander from Edmonton, will be the guest speaker at the convocation, but she will also be presenting a session at the Alumni Association workshop on the morning of convocation at St. Augustine's Church Hall on Westerland Road. So if you're around, you're welcome to that. That also will be available online. So I think we'll wrap it up there, unless there's something else from anyone else.
I just want to say thank you to Queen's College for the opportunity to educate those online and those who are present today, and this ministry that belongs to all of us. And I thought there's no better place than a theological college to be able to do this, because there are many people here who will go out in the ministry either ordained or not ordained, but will be able to take this message. And that way, the more clergy we have educated about Primate's Fund, then the more work that will actually happen in parishes. And so thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Charlene. That's probably something next year that our student association can connect with you about, and you know, we have outreach types of ministries, and this might become part of it as well. Anyway, best of luck to you all, and we'll invite you to view any of the sessions that we have. They're all linked in on our YouTube channel through our Queen's website, so any of the previously recorded sessions will be available there as well. Best of luck to you all. Thank you. Bye.